Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward, and thanks to our episode sponsor, the Coffee Roasters Mastermind group, coached by the fabulous Ann Cooper. If you're interested in joining the Coffee Roasters Mastermind group, please check the show notes below and improve your roasting no matter what level of roasting you're at today. Now, today on the podcast, we're talking about this phenomenon that seems to be happening out there in the world right now of people getting drunk on COVID recovery. And I want to talk about the extraordinary level of what I'm so glad about, which is the happiness that's out there about the fact that we may be turning a corner with regards to COVID, and that we may be experiencing some forms of recovery. But friends, whenever we get drunk on anything, we need to proceed with caution and not to be a Debbie Downer on any of this. But we are not out of a pandemic yet. Our borders here in Australia are not open. We are not seeing the economic ramifications of what the world has gone through. We are still seeing surging rates in different countries around the world and low vaccination rates and little to no immunity in some countries. We are still a ways off the pandemic being over, and we are nowhere near the kind of recovery that needs to happen for economies to be stabilized around the world. And in the next episode, we'll be talking about why we need to pay attention to inflation and what the consequences of that could be to the economy and to cafes. In this episode, I really want to focus on how we can figure out whether we are drunk on recovery and what we should do to make a slight correction so that, look, I'm not saying don't be happy, don't be excited. If in your local community recovery is a real thing, great. But don't get drunk on it. And why I want to put this episode out is because if you're not paying attention to the big picture and you do allow yourself to get drunk on recovery from the pandemic, you may miss the signs of something more challenging that is about to show up. In my opinion, and never have I wanted to be more wrong about something. But if at some point we have to have an economic correction for all the money that we've printed. But again, we'll talk about that in the next episode. In this episode, how do we bring ourselves back to being sober? How do we bring ourselves back to being focused on the task at hand? I would much rather that we got drunk on recovery when we knew we were definitely in recovery. We are not there. And if you are somebody who is, I want to go to all the expos and I want to visit all the coffee festivals and I want to be traveling and I want to, just fling my doors open to all the businesses around the world, and I'm going to spend all the money and do everything that I need to make everything as successful as possible. I'm all in. If you are one of those people, we still have time to correct. We still have time to say, all right, look, I got happy for a second and it's great that I was happy. Just right now, what I need to do is look at how I secure things for the next 12 months. How do I make sure that the jubilation that I'm feeling is proportionate to the level of recovery that I know is happening for a fact. And how do we know that this recovery is going to stick? Because all I'm seeing right now around the world is people saying the pandemic's over, the end of the pandemic's in sight, let's get business back to being business. Let's see what happens after that because, we've got to get things moving. Meanwhile, there is a severe staff shortage in most countries and competition is high. We're going to talk about that in a future episode as well and what we need to be paying attention to. So looking at where the gaps are right now, rather than focusing on just the happy side of the story, which isn't really here yet. We just want it to be here. And I'm with you. I want us to be in recovery. But the real matter of it is we're not. We want to trick ourselves into believing that we are because we're so exhausted of everything that's happened. And it sucks. It sucks that we can't be celebrating saying, thank God it's all over. We can just figure out how we can put this thing back together. I'm concerned that if we as an industry are not paying attention to the immediate after effects of the last 12 months, not the after effects of a pandemic, because we're not there yet. We're looking at the after effects of what has happened in the last 12 months. If we're not paying attention to that and how we need to start responding to that, the time that the economy starts to react to the overprinting of money, to inflation, to increased commodity prices, all of that kind of stuff, we're not going to be ready. We're not going to be ready as small businesses, and we're not going to be ready as an industry. So I invite you to check your sobriety with regards to the pandemic and being drunk on recovery. And I invite you to take a look at your profit and loss statements. Take a look at how the industry is doing in your local area, in your city, in your state, across the country. And if economics is something that you're not well versed on, now is absolutely the time to start learning the fundamentals. For me, as someone who isn't economically inclined, it took me over a year of exposure to fundamental economic terms to start getting good at understanding and repeated exposure again and again and again to these terms and find the right ways to learn about things. And once I did start to get traction with that, everything kind of fell into place. And I'm by no means an expert, but I do understand it far more than I did before, and I'm able to have intelligent conversations with people about it. It has helped my business beyond belief. It has helped the businesses of the people who I coach and who are in the mastermind groups beyond belief. Now is a time for us to keep our feet on the ground, be aware of our economic surroundings as well as our business surroundings, and keep moving forward so that if the ground under us does shift, we're not caught in a state of drunkenness or in a state of hangover, and we're ready to respond. We are ready to pivot. We are ready to adapt, and our businesses don't go out of business. I hope this has been helpful. Please, please, please do not take this as me being negative or trying to be alarmist or anything like that. This is me saying, hey guys, we got to check ourselves, because our success or the end of our businesses or our careers is on us. So, peace on peanut butter, friends. Have an amazing rest of your day.